Well, hello and welcome to the Solar Alberta's 2025 Solar Series. Today's session is called Solar Journeys, Alberta's Native Friendship Centers. We were delighted to have folks register for this event today, and please note that we will be recording the webinar for future distribution as well. My name is Heather McKenzie, and I'm the Executive Director of Solar Alberta. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge that I'm hosting you today and working day to day from Amiskwaciwâskahigan, also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homelands of the Otipemisiwak Métis Nation. Treaty 6 territory is a traditional gathering place and home of many Indigenous peoples, including the Papaches, Nehiyawak or Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Blackfoot, and Nakota Sioux. Nations whose ancestors have cared for and nurtured these lands since time immemorial. Today, we're going to be hearing from Leon Cardinal from the Alberta Native Friendship Centers Association. Following his presentation, there will be a question and answer period in which you can all participate. The entire session will wrap up in an hour and a half. I'm excited to share that this session is sponsored by Bullfrog Power with 100% green electricity. This means that Bullfrog Power, their generators are putting 100% green electricity onto the grid to match the amount of conventional electricity the event uses. So for all of your computers today, that will displace energy from polluting sources. Across Canada, Bullfrog's green electricity comes from a blend of wind, solar, and low-impact hydro power sourced from new Canadian renewable energy facilities. So for more information on Bullfrog's green energy, you can visit bullfrogpower.com. And you're going to hear a little later from our other sponsor today, our session sponsor, Ouellette Ag Engineering. So I'll just tempt you with that right now, and you'll hear from Chris in a little bit. All right, please note that we have enabled closed captioning for this presentation. You can turn the captioning on in the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. During our Q&A period, we're going to be using Zoom Q&A for your questions rather than the chat box. So please enter your questions in the Q&A section. Also, please click on the little thumbs up symbols to upvote questions that you like. Before we move forward, we're going to do a quick poll just to get a sense of who we have joining us today. So please take a minute to answer the question that should be popping up on your screen. All right, see some of those responses start coming in. While some are still doing the poll, I just want to encourage you to take a minute, pop your name, land acknowledgement, any contact info you're comfortable sharing in the chat now and throughout the event so that others can look you up on LinkedIn or email you, and hopefully some new relationships can be formed. All right, wonderful. Let's have a peek at the poll here. So we've got lots of solar industry folks in the house today. And we also have some solar curious people here, about half and half, so that's great. Thanks so much for joining us today. Glad to have a healthy mix. A little bit about Solar Alberta before we get started. We're actually in our 34th year of operation. We're a nonprofit society that's dedicated to accelerating Alberta's transition to a just and sustainable energy future. We do so by advocating, educating, and serving as an industry and community hub for solar energy. Our membership is made up of more than 220 individuals and over 160 businesses. We also have more than 30,000 followers. We provide a number of services, including managing a solar directory through our website. In this way, we act as a bridge for installers, suppliers, and other solar-related businesses to connect with their customers and clients. Our directory gets more than 34,000 hits each year, and you can see a link to it in the chat. We also offer affordable courses for solar industry professionals or those looking to transition into the solar sector. Most of our courses are online Tuesday and Thursday evenings. While our live online courses are finished for the season, we recently announced the dates for our fall course offerings. So be sure to check our website for those dates and details about our solar training course bundle. And if you're looking for training over the summer months, we also have on-demand recordings of all of our courses available for sale alongside our paid workshops in the solar training videos section of our website. And of course, just like you're at one today, we do run these free public webinars as well. So our next solar series seminar isn't scheduled till the fall, but please keep an eye out for that in our events calendar and on our social media. You can also find free archived videos of all of our previous webinars, like the two pictured here, on our YouTube channel. In addition to providing education about solar, we do advocate for it. We're currently rising up for renewables. We have free lawn signs available for pickup in 10 municipalities, and we offer free delivery in 8 municipalities around the province. We also have template letters that you can use on our website asking the Government of Alberta to eliminate the new and discriminatory buffer zones that they have established for renewable energy. You can click on the link in the chat to make a free sign order or find our template letters today. And just so you're aware, our Solar Alberta Summer Solstice online auction is now live and bidding runs until June 20th. Please click on the link in the chat to participate. There's some pretty cool items listed there. We're also still accepting a few more donations, so if you'd like to donate, you can contact us at sponsor@solaralberta.ca to donate an item. Lastly, if you're not already a member, I just want to encourage you to join. Individual memberships are only $35, and you can get access to a lot of member benefits, including discounts on courses and workshops, as well as access to member-only content. We also have a diversity discount code for 20% off if you are equity deserving, so you can always email us to receive that code. If you're looking to support us in additional ways, please consider volunteering or donating. All right, without further ado, I just want to take this opportunity to give a big shout out to Willett Ag Engineering for sponsoring this session. We really couldn't offer all of this free content without the support of our sponsors. And we're always interested in developing more partnerships for our events. So if you want to work with us to educate the public about solar or solar-related technologies, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to introduce Chris Willett from Willett Ag Engineering now. Chris is going to turn his camera and mic on, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his company and then introduce our speaker for the day. Welcome, Chris. Thanks so much for your support and for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Heather, and Solar Alberta, and the opportunity to sponsor a great speaker like Leon Cardinal. Yes, just to introduce my company, I formed an engineering firm last fall, Willett Ag Engineering Incorporated, and I specialize in providing tailored energy solutions for urban, rural, and agricultural renewable and alternative energy system investments. So my services include Sponge microgrids, energy management controller that integrates into any energy and building management system to enable predictive energy optimization and other key features like a unified system status dashboard and user customizable notifications. Another service that I'm involved with is combined heat power to provide heat and electrical generation using vintage solar solutions for both residential and commercial use cases. As well, I'm also using a do-it-yourself solar PV journey tool called Autonomy DX that provides for homeowners and possibly solar system developers to do an initial quote on their solar PV needs. So please reach out to Willett Ag Engineering to discuss your needs today. I'm just going to introduce our speaker, Leon Cardinal. Leon is a member of the Fishing Lake Metis Settlement in Treaty 6 territory and has been working for Alberta Native Friendship Center Association since 2024 as the Green Initiatives Coordinator. He is a carpenter by trade and worked many years in emergency services as well, completing the 2020 Catalyst program through Indigenous Clean Energy, or ICE, in 2019, helping to develop the Bringing It Home initiative through ICE and completing the captain's course with Edmonton City Fire and bringing solar power to his settlement are a couple key highlights to his career. He is passionate about the environment, sustainable living, woodworking, gardening, and classic cars and trucks. His responsibility at the Alberta Native Friendship Centers Association is to build sustainable friendship centers and practices that have a positive impact on the environment. Without further ado, I will now pass the mic over to Leon to begin his presentation.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Chris, for the introduction. And I really want to send out our gratitude to Solar Alberta and to Heather for having us here today and being able to share our story with Solar Alberta and its members. And a big shout out to Chris, excuse me, at Willett Ag Engineering and to Bullfrog Power for sponsoring today's seminar. I come to you today from, again, like Heather, I'm in Waskagan, or Beaver Hills House, in Edmonton, in Treaty 6 territory. Like Chris said, I'm a member of the Fishing Lake Metis Settlement. I get back there whenever I can. And then those that are not aware, it's pretty much straight east of Edmonton, sandwiched between Frog Lake First Nations and the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. So today we're going to share who we are, where we're at with our projects, and where we're going. And share the stories and the challenges and the successes along the way. So we look forward to it, and I look forward to any questions you have at the end of it. So looking forward to this. And Heather, if we can go to the next slide. So a little bit about the Alberta Native Friendship Center Association. It was incorporated in April 1970 and serves as the provincial association body for the 20-member friendship centers across Alberta. We're dotted in every corner from High Level over to Fort McMurray, Medicine Hat over to Pincher Creek, and 16 other dots in between. Our vision is a healthy, thriving, culturally connected urban Indigenous community, and that helps drive some of the things that we do through our Green Initiatives program that I'm a part of, and helps us do things like solar power and stuff like that. So that really does support our vision, our mission, and that support active friendship centers who, through program and service delivery, engage with and improve the quality of life urban Indigenous people. And the ANFCA is committed to effective, vibrant national and provincial partnerships focused on collaboration and common goals that support friendship centers. So I will share with you again what we have done. So basically, we started completing ASHRAE Level 2 audits in after, if we look at my work with the Fishing Lake Metis Settlement, to be able to get a good understanding of where we needed to go to make things more energy efficient. First of all, because it's cheaper for us to save power than it is to create power. And we worked to complete deep retrofits to the fire hall, the old administration building, and we ended up adding solar to the new administration building and to the community hall. So there's been quite a large environmental and economic impact as a result of that. We developed a net zero triplex as a guide community for the Bringing It Home initiative through Indigenous Clean Energy. Through the pandemic, we weren't able to complete the project. One of our challenges, and this was a challenge that really happened through the pandemic, was pricing became was really impacted by it. So we ended up with a funding shortfall. I still hope that someday that project sees the light of day, because I would really like to see where we have low impact housing as far as environment goes, but has a high impact on the lives of Indigenous people. So as a Green Initiatives Coordinator for the Alberta Native Friendship Center Association, I've been tasked with creating sustainable friendship centers from a building perspective, meaning we have buildings that are greatly improved from a structural perspective, an energy efficiency component, and also an energy producing component, and are culturally relevant as well. Next slide, please, Heather. So the Alberta Native Friendship Center Association, our focus is for the urban Indigenous population. And the urban Indigenous identity is complex in Alberta as it encompasses nearly 80% of the total First Nation, Métis, and Inuit, or the Indigenous population. Urban Indigenous in our context defines First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people living off reserve off Metis Settlement or outside their home community in rural and remote towns and cities across Alberta. This includes individuals who may also identify as being Indigenous without ties to a specific nation or community. Next slide, please. So there are currently 20 friendship centers across Alberta, like I mentioned, and part of a national movement of 112 friendship centers across Canada. Friendship centers, on average, provide programs and services to 1,300 Indigenous men, women, children, and elders combined daily. In 2022-2023, over 200,000 Indigenous people were provided programs and services. In Alberta, friendship centers deliver over 300 unique programs and services combined that are culturally relevant and responsive to each community that they serve. Each friendship center they have their own, they're independent in their own way. It's not like the Alberta Native Friendship Center is the authority over them. We are the collective body of them, and we support them. So they're very autonomous in their own decision making in that as well. Next slide, please, Heather. So friendship centers provide a multitude of programs and services for urban Indigenous people. And they provide frontline services to vulnerable populations. Some of the services we offer include education, culture, including language, dance, sewing, lots of different things within that. Health and well-being programs, such as addiction support and recovery, mental health programs, and just help with the personal capacity. I see we have literacy programs that go on all the time. We also have employment programs that are delivered at the Friendship Center level. Help with justice. Housing and food security is becoming more and more prevalent all the time. Vulnerable sector supports, such as the homeless. Family programs, including youth, women, men, and elders. And disaster and response and support from an emergency social services perspective. We're helping them build plans and relationships to help them deal with the ongoing impacts of disasters and emergencies that happen within the communities that they serve. Next slide. So the ANFCA Green Initiative supports the reduction of greenhouse gas through energy efficiency hierarchy. We're always working to build sustainability through the Friendship Center infrastructure and other green initiatives such as gardening, recycling, and on and on. We are an anomaly of the ANFCA as we do not directly support frontline services. Our focus is in the relationship with Mother Earth and look at it through an urban Indigenous lens. So Green Initiatives is a resource and supports many different sustainable initiatives. Next slide, please, Heather. So when about 2020, just in the beginning of the pandemic, the Alberta Native Friendship Center Association approached SAIT about beginning to develop energy efficient projects for the friendship centers. And it came to light, and we're nearing the sunset of this project as we speak. And so the project included studies for 13 of the 20 friendship centers. Why it's not 20 of the 20, I'll explain this. We have some that buildings were not owned, so the studies were not done there, and we had some that were just not available during the time because of the pandemic. But we were able to complete building studies of the 13 of the 20 friendship centers, and 3 centers received retrofits in 2023, 2024, with an impact of 34 tons of carbon dioxide reductions annually. Our initial projection was for 20-ton reduction, so we're very, very pleased that we have additional impact. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we would want to do. And we do have some challenges with being able to get everyone involved with everything all the time. And again, some centers are, all the centers, they make their own decisions and they can opt to based on what they have going at the time. Some of them we just can't at this point participate in certain things because of capacity. And that's so, we're always trying to find ways to help and support to be as successful as we can. So when we started the Rate Safe project, we were looking at doing 4 centers. Only 3 were able to participate fully. One wanted to go even deeper, and so they didn't participate at that point, but they did participate greatly in the training component of it and engagement. Next slide, please, Heather. So this was both a capacity building project and a retrofit project. And there was much to learn between Friendship Centers, the SATE GBT-TAC, which is the Green Building Green Building Training and Access Center, and ANFCA. The 4 centers that we worked with were Nistawoyu in Fort McMurray. They received retrofits, Manawants in St. Paul, Miassen in Medicine Hat, and Grand Prairie worked with us as far as working in training and capacity building in the project as well. So when we come to learning, some of our learning challenges, while SAIT adapted to looking at projects through an Indigenous lens, we had to adapt to processes and procedures that are needed to support an Indigenous perspective, as well as a process perspective outside of the Indigenous way of being, meaning that we can make sure that we can develop projects that are shovel ready, but still support the Indigenous way of being and the goals and objectives of the Friendship Centers and of the ANFCA. So keywords like holistically became even more meaningful when 2 perspectives met. This meant coming from a place where the entire project was looked at to adding ways of supporting the medicine wheel and the Indigenous culture into design and planning. So initially, when they looked at things holistically, it was like, well, we're going to take a look at all the systems within the place, heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, structural, and all those were looked at. And then we come along and had to add the Indigenous component to it to make sure that we had our input and we could have impact on the project in a positive way that it helped us with our way of being and knowing. Next slide, please, Heather. So this was an engagement session that we had in Grand Prairie. We were very, very pleased with the turnout across all the centers. I think we ended up running 12 total engagement centers, meaning 3 for each location, as we were working in 4 different locations. And we had hundreds of people total show up, give us input onto things, give us feedback, learned, listened, and again, as part of how do we build a relationship between 2 unique organizations such as SAIT and ANFCA. This was some of the key building blocks for it. Next slide, Heather. So some of the items we worked on, some of it, we did some we'll call low-hanging fruit. There was lighting upgrades in all 3 of the centers. And that was done through the first part of the project. Lighting, thermostats, and some heating upgrades. And then we were able to go back and do some additional work with some additional grant money. And we did things like Manawan's here it was an older building. We were able to do a window retrofit. And I was going to say that was really, really impactful to our emissions reductions targets. So that was one of the key areas that we were able to be successful in. Next slide, please. now we're engaged in the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative. And this is where we could complete studies that will enable us to create shovel-ready projects for funding for our friendship centers. We currently have 10 of our friendship centers in the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative. I'm hoping that we can get 16 in there when we're all said and done. We won't be able to go 20 of 20 because, again, we have some centers that do not own their buildings. And so we're not going to invest the money to make somebody else's building energy efficient. We will find other ways to address that with these friendship centers on a go-forward basis. And we have a couple of friendship centers that are nearing, I would say, the completion of high-performance buildings. Edmonton has just moved into a new building. They did some major retrofits to their office administration building and are running a very efficient building. And Fort McMurray, or in Nistawayu in Fort McMurray, is finishing up another project within the retrofit program, and they are re-insulating their building, and it's going to have a massive impact on their heat loss, and they will not need to do a deep retrofit study on that one going at this point. So hopefully we will see an additional 6 centers in that in the very near future. Next slide, please. So that gives you an idea. This one's from our Rocky Mountain House of the condition of some of the friendship centers. A lot of our buildings are older buildings. We are challenged with having to try and address them from a structural perspective before we go into a deep retrofit perspective. And I'm happy to say that we're working on that. This one here, this friendship center is undergoing some foundation supports and renewal as we speak, and hopefully we'll be ready to complete the deep retrofit study in it in the very near future. A lot of our buildings are older buildings within the municipalities that they serve, and we're looking forward to giving these buildings new life and creating some sustainability with them. Next slide. So this is where we can really start to impact and talk about our work within friendship centers and solar PV. So we currently have 8 friendship centers that have solar PV. They include the ones in Fort McMurray, Lac La Biche, Medicine Hat, and we have 5 others that have it. And not all the systems are operational, we found, when we were doing some of the deep retrofit accelerator initiative. And so we have some things to address there. Next slide, please. So here we have pictures of each one of our solar arrays that we have. So we have top right, or pardon me, top left would be our system in Slave Lake. Immediately to the right of that is the one in Bonnyville. Now I'm not sure which one is the one next to it. That might be Lac La Biche. And then Meowsin is in Medicine Hat. Nappy is in Pincher Creek. Nistawayu in the bottom left, that is the one in Fort McMurray. And the one where we could see taken from the ground, that's the one in High Level. And finally, we have the one in Lloydminster. So 8 of the 20 currently have these systems, and we're very pleased with that. The only one we know the capacity of at this point, and once we get some of the deep retrofit accelerator initiatives reports back, is a Lac La Biche, which is running 15.8 kilowatts, I believe it is. So that's the size of that system. The other ones I currently do not have the data on, and that is one of our key areas of continual improvement is data collection. Next slide. So as we go forward, we're looking at system size, which will decrease on the new PV installations as the centers become more energy efficient. And all deep retrofit plans will include solar PV installations where it is feasible. And there's the space to accommodate, because we do have some challenges with that. Like the new ANFCA is building a new office in Edmonton, and we're not able to put solar PV on it because we have the neighbors have trees in that are growing and blocking. So we're not able to make a system work within that. And so we hope to add at least 7 more systems in the next 2 to 3 years as we go through going from complete our deep retrofit reports and move into doing the deep retrofits, which we anticipate doing again over the next 2 to 3 years, that we will see many of these places be totally energy efficient and have solar PV as well. Next slide. Utilities management. This is an absolute new area for us. And again, we're in the infancy of it, and we know that we can impact the money spent on utilities through energy efficiency and managing the utilities. There is so much to learn. I'm going to be honest, this is one that I am just getting to understand. And I know that there's going to be great impact for the bottom line for the friendship centers as we go through this and figure out means and ways to help them move forward with how they manage their utilities and how they manage utilities and energy efficiency. So thank you. I believe that is the end of our slides. Is there another one, Heather? Oh, you can reach me. There's my contact information. Thank you, Heather.
Perfect.
I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Leon. My office is warming up here as we speak. The sun has come out, so it's nice to think about all the solar that's hopefully getting some sunlight on your various facilities today. And just a reminder to everybody that you should put your questions in the Q&A box, please, rather than in the chat as we go forward. And I look forward to asking them on your behalf. So Leon, that was super interesting to learn about. And thank you for touching on solar. I know you're looking at many things other than just solar, so I appreciate you touching on that as well. And that data component had me curious. I was wondering, were those solar systems installed quite a while ago on the various centers? Is that why there's a little bit of information missing?
Absolutely. It was done during the Indigenous Clean, the Clean ICLEI, so
Okay.
the under the NDP government, a lot of
Oh.
those, I think all those systems built and put installed at that point.
So
And
6 or 7 years ago now, probably,
yeah,
hey?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I know that you're maybe having the same issue that a lot of homeowners have, where if they are new to a home and you may have new staff at the centers who may not have all the information that the people who were there when it started, because I know there's nobody currently at Solar Alberta who was around at that time. And I imagine as a nonprofit, these various centers probably have seen a lot of board and staff turnover, which would make it really challenging to track some of those original purchase decisions and sizes. Hey,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. And it
certainly,
was interesting,
mhm.
to find out that some of the systems weren't even operational.
And they weren't aware of that. Yeah, I know.
That's correct.
I know that a lot of folks have been calling us lately saying, "Look, I've got a system that's been around for a while. I don't know if it's really working properly. I don't have any information on it." So they've been asking for help from our members. And one of the challenges I've found is that a lot of our business members aren't willing to touch an array that's not their own. So what we've done recently is on our directory, we put a maintenance and repair checkbox, and any of our members who are willing to help out with old arrays and who can figure out what the heck's going on are hopefully now listed there. So I think we've got about 3 or so who are willing to dig into the the old array issue. So hopefully we can start to tackle that issue together. Lots of great questions coming in here, so I'm just going to start asking other people's questions, although I have so many myself, it's tempting to just keep asking away. Right, so first question up, what are some lessons learned from the project so far? What are some of your key takeaways or things that you've learned?
Oh, you know what? There's always we're in a new world. We're in a new way of doing things. So there's always capacity building that needs to be done. There's always training that needs to be done. There's changes in perspective that have to happen at every level, whether it be at our level or working with partners. Those are some of the key things are that we noticed are there. But capacity, being able to find the right people to do the right jobs, um, process of things. Those are some of the real challenges that we are going to that we are addressing, and will help us achieve our goals at the end of the day.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that a lot of the centers are in obviously more rural areas, and often our members are really working in Edmonton and Calgary, and there are not as many who are willing to go out of town. So that must be a challenge, not just for solar, but for all the retrofits, is making sure you have folks who are willing to either travel and ideally find local people as well who can offer those supports.
And those are some of the other challenges. Is some we do have some local capacity challenges from what we have for resources in some towns. And so yeah, we do have to sometimes pay the extra money to get people to come in and get it done.
To get them to come, which costs for travel.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know, especially in the north, a lot of companies have trouble competing there with the oil and gas sector for workers. And so a lot of our members just can't pay, the same wages up north that people can make from oil and gas. So bringing people from Edmonton and Calgary up sometimes is more affordable than trying to pay people a rate that competes with oil and gas up north, eh?
Absolutely. Even from trying to get service work done on, when we're doing retrofits, and that is a challenge to try and find local, because they're so busy and they can make better money doing the oil and gas sector than they can, you
Yeah,
know.
I remember thinking, gosh, in the solar sector, a journey person electrician can start at around 85,000 a year, which I thought was pretty good. But then someone said, well, they make six figures in the oil and gas sector, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I can see why that's hard to compete with, and that could make it challenging, especially when doing projects in those more rural and remote areas. We have some other questions here. Taryn is wondering, what were some of the main topics raised by attendees during your engagement sessions? So, yeah, that was a good question, Taryn.
Well, understanding exactly what we're doing, and the impacts of it, um, and why we're not going all the way, like why do we just do it all right now? And having them understand, we're working within the constraints of what funding we have at the time, what capacities we have at the time, and the current objectives and goals. So
Mm-hmm.
those were some of the key things. Um, Impacts, environmental impacts, and trying to give a really good visual of, well, this is the impact we're gonna have, but now to try and give that into a visual perspective. So like how big of a ball is a ton of CO2. So creating visual impacts and that was some of the challenges. Understanding the language of this new language, I guess, like what is it? What do you mean by a deep retrofit? What's the difference with a retrofit? What's a kilowatt? All those different uh, language components. We don't want to leave anybody behind or just try and feel like we're just selling them something. So trying to explain as much as we can and um, in the simplest and easiest way so there's a complete understanding of what we're trying to achieve. Those are some real challenges
Yeah, and I know there's
and
probably some,
intergenerational.
oh, intergenerational, in that different generations will understand these concepts differently.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're bringing everyone along. I know that in the solar sector, we're often having to help people understand if there's a couple of myths that are out there that we have to address too. Like there's that perception that solar doesn't work in colder climates like ours, which of course is not true because solar PV actually likes the cold. So I imagine you probably had to address a couple of those types of myths as well that we encounter on a pretty regular basis, eh?
Well, we have, and if you take a look with our two most northern centers, High Level has a system, and Nistawayu and Fort McMurray has a system. So, we were able to get through those and with some success.
Interesting. Yeah, and Jerry's just wondering, do the Friendship Centers offer programming to non-Indigenous people as well, or is it just First Nations, Métis, and Inuit?
It's a friendship center. If somebody comes in, requires looking for help or assistance, they will go do what they can to help anybody.
That's lovely. But yeah, it definitely operates as a nonprofit or a charity and not like a nation would, right? And that's a really
That is that is
important
correct.
difference. I imagine some folks who are used to working within a First Nation community must be frustrated by some of the challenges within the charitable sector. Because, for example, a lot of Indigenous nations, if they decide to build a solar farm, they are working on that and they can get it done. And then they must come into this context and say, we're just trying to get 15 kilowatts. Why is that? Why is that so
There is.
difficult when we've built massive solar farms? But it's just the charitable context and the nonprofit context is quite different, hey?
It is. It puts some challenges around creating sustainability, because just the laws and that the govern um, nonprofits. It really does. As we take a look at how do we try and secure something, we can't look 7 generations in this capacity, but how do we look 20, 25 years into the future? And that there with the rules and that around nonprofits, it is more challenging. So there will be some creative solutions that will have to happen over the next few years to really, really impact the sustainability and giving, obviously, life cycling buildings. So we're not just saying, we don't know where this building's going to be in 10 years, and that we can build these plans out that will support sustainable buildings.
Yeah, that sounds good. Paul's asking, have you called out to solar technicians for possible volunteer workers to assist with to assess the PV systems? The old invoices from the installers might be available as a starting point. He knows that many solar installers shut down their businesses after the NDP lost the election. Some of them also went elsewhere, I think, to BC and elsewhere, although we've got a few of them back, which I'm proud to say. But yeah, I guess curious there if you've done a shout out for folks to voluntarily come and do an assessment.
No, the answer to that one is no. The good news a lot of these places were in the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative, so those were evaluated at the time
Great.
of the study.
Yeah.
So we have gotten we don't have all the reports back yet because this is still an ongoing process, but we're identifying and we will be able to fix those systems in the very near future.
Yeah, I should mention on our website we do have a request for proposal system, and I sort of feel like I'm curious to see if you requested some volunteers to help with that, whether anyone would respond because it's a pretty unique opportunity for a lot of our members to be able to support such meaningful work. So, anyways, it's good to know you have a strategy that doesn't involve volunteerism, but feel free to see if someone would just come out and do that as well, because we do have some members who are into community service, and some of our members do even let their staff do volunteer work on their staff time, which is we've benefited from ourselves. We have a couple volunteers who come on staff time to collect stats for us and whatnot. So anyways, you feel free to hit our members up and see if they're willing to come out.
That is amazing, and that is something we will definitely, as we know exactly which places need to be addressed, we
Yeah.
will, we will reach out.
Well, that would be nice to see if some of them would consider it because yeah, I don't think any of us want to see systems that are less than 10 years old not working. That doesn't bode
Yeah,
well for the sector as a whole, right? Jerry's asking, Heather, you mentioned at one time that Solar Alberta was lobbying the city to have them reduce the amount from 3 to less regarding their new energy program of retrofitting our homes. Oh yeah, we've been successful in that. So the Clean Energy Improvement Program, I think, is what Jerry's talking about. Edmonton does have a clean energy improvement program for commercial facilities, which would include friendship centers, I believe. And they used to have a requirement that you do at least 3 retrofits to participate in their low interest loan program. They just changed that because of feedback from us and others. And so now I think you can just do solar if you want through that program. Not that we want to undermine all these other amazing deep retrofit initiatives, but there are some folks who can't afford it all. And so they end up doing it kind of piece by piece. And even qualifying for loans can be a bit challenging for different nonprofits in particular. You're not really supposed to take on debt as a nonprofit in Alberta, are you?
no, we're not.
Yeah, so that's a pretty significant barrier to
It is.
participation. Yeah,
It
no.
is so, but the good news is from that is, yeah, if you have to find multiple sources of funding, maybe you find some from here, some from this program, um, or maybe reach out to the Green Municipal Fund that's available.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
so,
couple different options for sure.
yeah,
We do also have a couple members who are doing community solar, and some of them are working with various charities like Bissell Center and others to to put solar up on their roofs, and it's kind of a half-half model. Half the solar goes to support the charity, and then half the solar goes to pay back the folks who are essentially loaning the money for the project. And so because the community solar folks are the ones taking the money on as the loan, then the charity or nonprofit isn't breaking the rules around not taking on debt. So there's a lot of creative solutions in Alberta. I find that people really like to think about, okay, these are the rules. Now, how can we maneuver around that?
you have to. I mean, the reality is, there's other provinces that have a lot more resources available when it comes to renewables and that. We're not that fortunate here in Alberta at the time. So yeah, you have to look at things very creatively and look for solutions.
Yeah, exactly. And one solution Paul has suggested here around monitoring PV systems going forward, as he said, there are now available low-cost remote monitoring devices so that PV system performance can be monitored from Edmonton, for example. So that would be really nice if your association could have remote monitoring of all the different centers. That way, if they had staff turnover or board turnover, you could still see what's going on, hey?
Well, that is one of the pieces in capacity that has to be looked at is, how do we monitor, as we move forward into data collection and monitoring, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that it's sustainable and that we can get long-term data to know that we have achieved our goals, that you have energy reduction, you have emissions reduction, all these different things. So yeah, and, as much as there is, each individual center is their own body. I think there's a time when I think the ANFCA really does need to support that. And if it's through that capacity, monitoring that and saying, hey, Center A, we can do this better, or we've noticed this, and give them a heads up. That's everybody wins with that one. The environment, energy usage, the economy, everybody wins. So
Yeah, another question here is what can attendees do to help ANFCA continue their solar and retrofit, I'll add, journey? Are there ways that people can maybe even donate if they're interested in supporting different centers in adopting a greener future? Do you know if that's a possibility or is it all kind of government dependent at this point?
well, we haven't looked at ways to see how the public, if you will, can reach out and help. But that would be very, very interesting. I think there's a discussion that would need to be had there. I couldn't give you an answer saying, "Hey, let's do this," and but
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very interesting conversation. I would love to have it.
Yeah, well,
Um,
if individual centers have ways that we could direct people to donate to their greening initiatives, like whether it's through Canada Helps or something. We could theoretically put a link to that on our Invest in Solar page on our website as well. So we should explore that together after this, because I think that would be a nice addition to our investment page.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, one thing people can do though, other than just giving money to those centers, is actually advocate. So right now in Canada, there are absolutely no supports in place for nonprofits or charities to green their buildings. So the new investor tax credit that you may have heard of for businesses in Alberta, it's not available as a refundable tax credit for charities or nonprofits. So that is something that Solar Alberta is advocating on to the federal government. We need to include nonprofits and charities in the new investment tax credit, because they're left out right now, and that's really not okay. There's also a new provincial grant that supports industrial and manufacturing facilities to green. Again, charities and nonprofits are not
Yeah.
included in the new provincial grant. And so they're being left out of every single program. So we are going to be advocating on that. And that's part of why we wanted to feature Leon today, is because these projects are going to be shovel ready, and then what, right? And so we really want to work together on making sure that the government stop ignoring the nonprofit sector, because it's been a while now since there have been any supports in place for that specific sector. Yet we've had numerous intakes of grants for businesses. Why not nonprofits? Why not charities, is my question. That must be so frustrating for you, Leon, as you're kind of in the, right on the ground dealing with all of that.
It is, gotta will continue to work on the funding strategy. We do know that there's different funds out there that we can access. Some of them may be ready, available through, a federal budget later this year. But again, um, we still have opportunities such as the Green Municipal Fund and maybe you're gonna have to find multiple sources for funding. Those are just the realities of today. And I think it makes your project stronger. Because, if we're going to look at something like, well, we're going to apply to the Green Inclusive Community Building Project, if we're asking for $20 million instead of $50 million, if we've got secured $30 million, well, it gives us a better chance for success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really important. And we are going to hear a little bit more this fall, hopefully, about the municipal initiatives that I know Alberta Municipalities is spearheading a lot of different municipal greening initiatives. So, hoping to have them in to tell us about some of their programs. Lisa is wondering, and I guess she picked up on the same thoughts as I did around, we have a couple of community generation members, they're cooperatives. There's one in Edmonton called Spice, and then there's the Bow Valley Green Energy Cooperative. They are the ones who are kind of leasing roof space for projects. Have you folks considered leasing out any of the roofs rather than doing your own project, and maybe making a little bit of money through the lease instead of the solar?
Honestly, we haven't even begun to look at that. That is, just another avenue or another that we need to go down and explore. Um, it's funny, well, it's interesting as we explore this and work on this, how many different areas that we can look at. We talked about utilities management. This might be another opportunity, or this is another opportunity for us to look at and discuss.
Yeah, yeah, certainly getting creative. And it's so great that you're getting the groundwork done. A lot of people wait. A lot of organizations wait until there's a grant and then they get started. And often they're too late, because by the time they get their application in, they miss the intake period. This is happening to a lot of multi-unit residential buildings in Edmonton
Yeah.
right now, because, the intake periods are short. And by the time your condo board gets organized, it's too late. So it's really great that you folks are doing all the upfront work to be ready to pounce.
Well, that is exactly it. Everybody wants a shovel ready project, and we are doing everything we can do to create as many of those as we can. So when opportunity does present itself, that we're able to participate and hopefully be successful, and ultimately have a real positive effect on the environment and also on the economics of the Friendship Center. We've seen some preliminary reports that come out through the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative, and it's totally exciting to see what potential um, impacts there are, both economically and environmentally.
Yeah, I'm curious. In the one instance, you're doing a foundation renewal. I remember having Peter Amarongan on our show once, and I said, Peter, is there any instance where you would build new instead of doing a deep energy retrofit? And he said, well, if the foundation was completely shot, that's when he would maybe build new instead of doing a retrofit. And but in your case, you're able to salvage the foundation there at that one site.
That is correct. And, there's a long-term warranty that goes with that. So we know that that building will be secured, but, absolutely, you have to take a look at making sure that the buildings that we are going to retrofit are structurally sound. It, there is no money within the retrofit grants, if you will, for things like addressing building deficiencies. So, we're here to address, HVAC systems, um, insulating and all the different barrier systems and that.
Oh,
So
that's great. Yeah, I guess I had one last question for you, if you'll indulge me. I'm wondering if your deep energy retrofits include full electrification. Like, are you folks looking at heat pumps, or is that too extreme of me to ask?
no, ultimately, if we can do that, um, absolutely. If we can take and degasify, if that's a word, everything, even better.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool that
I'm
you're
not sure.
considering that, because I know that, a lot of folks in Alberta are still there's still that Albertan perspective that heat pumps don't work in the cold, but I've had some heat pump presentations saying no, they do now, and they're even in Yellowknife, and there are even heat pumps north of
Mhm.
Alberta, and so that makes me think, okay, well let's go for it then, and then you could have a solar system that offsets your heating in addition to your electricity, which would be amazing.
The one challenge, and most of the centers have commercial kitchens that are gas-fired ranges and stuff like that. Being able to, I'm not sure what's available currently as far as electric ranges that could give you the same sort of capacity
Yeah,
as
I'd be
that.
curious. I'd be curious. I have an induction stove myself, and it's a dream. Like, I can heat up water in like 2 minutes or less. So maybe they could start shifting to induction. But yeah, I guess if you're cooking for a lot of people, you really have to have a lot of capacity there in your kitchen. And I said that was the last question, but Lisa, our board member, very kindly has added one extra question. She's just wondering if your various centers are eligible when they have solar. Are they able to join the solar specific pricing plans, such as the Solar Club or ACE or other solar specific pricing plans? Do you know if they're able to participate in that?
I don't, but you know what, Lisa? I would love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
Um, there's, I need to pick your brain for a little bit, and so,
Well,
and to help me learn and understand some of the nuances in that within your. So if
yeah.
if we can have a talk in the near future, I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I suspect as long as they're overproducing for part of the year, then they probably can, and they probably would want to. Basically, my understanding is any micro generator, which would include your systems in the province, if they are overproducing for part of the year and want a solar specific pricing plan, then they can pay more for their electricity at that time of year and make more at that time of year. But it would only make sense if you have systems that are big enough that they're covering off more than you're using in the summer. So
Yeah.
I guess as part of your assessment, you'll have to see whether it would make sense for some of them to switch over to a solar specific pricing plan. But I do think that most micro generators, if not all, can join those programs. But yeah, you'll definitely have to check in with a couple of our members about that once you know what's going on with those systems, because we do actually have a number of retailers in our directory, and the retailers offer solar specific pricing plans, and they can let you know if it makes financial sense for your centers to benefit from that in the summer months in particular. So anyways,
Well,
lots of opportunity for us to keep collaborating going forward. I'm so glad you took this opportunity to come and share your story with us today, Leon. It's really been an honor, and sure appreciate you doing that today. Thank you very much.
it is. It's mutual. I mean, I'm very happy to be here to share that, and knowing that we still as an organization have so much to learn, and particularly, regarding some of these things that we're talking about, like how do we best manage our utilities and all that, all those practices need to be explored, and um, there's real impacts that can happen. So yeah,
Yeah.
we look
Well,
forward to that.
I'm really particularly inspired when I see an organization that's dealing with so many of the challenges in our community, also thinking about greening their buildings. It's just like how inspiring to hold all of those things at once, and not a lot of people have the capacity to care about all of those different issues at the same time. So I appreciate you folks doing that. I think it's nice, like you said, a holistic system, and we need to think about the people we serve in their broader context and in the environment that they're being
Hmm.
served in. So thank you for that. And I will also give a big thanks to Chris and Willette Ag Engineering. We really appreciate you sponsoring today as well. All our attendees are writing their thanks in the chat, so I'll appreciate that and appreciate their attendance and great questions. And yeah, I think both Leon and Chris shared their contact info in the chat, so grab that before we close out here. And of course, you know us, we're at info@solaralberta.ca anytime you folks need to check in. So thanks again, Leon and Chris, and all our attendees, and of course to our staff for putting this together today. Have a wonderful summer, and I guess we'll reconvene for our seminar series again in the fall. See you all again soon.
Thank you very much.